Hey, welcome to Black Rock. My name is Dan and I'm on staff here. Before the sermon starts, I want to take a second to invite you to join us in person if you're able. If you have any questions about visiting or about our church in general, feel free to check out blackrock.org/visit or email me at guests@blackrock.org. Now, here's the sermon.
When you hear the word truth, what comes to mind? Reality? Uncertainty? Truth can be hard to describe. Culture says things like, no one can know the truth, or that may be your truth, or you can't handle the truth. We live in a generation that thinks with its heart and listens with its eyes, where truth can be hard to find. We look for it in feelings and experiences, metaphors and intuition, things that are ever changing. But what if the loving, joyful truth we are seeking is accessible to us right now? What if that truth has been given to us by God? Black Rock Church has been teaching and living out these truths for 175 years. They're not our truths, but God's truths, revealed in Scripture and unchanging since the beginning of time. Join us as we examine Scripture to discover timeless truths for truthless times.
Well, it was just the other evening, and it happened again. I was watching a movie, kind of a thought-provoking drama, and it became clear that a character had been introduced, and this character was a church-going, Bible-believing Christian. And so I leaned forward to find out what kind of person this was going to be. And like I said, it happened again. It happened again that the person depicted as a church-going Christ follower was this uptight killjoy. This person who was mean and negative, all about rules and judging people who think they can just be free and do whatever they want, and just this joyless, judgmental person. Why? Why does that happen over and over again, where in media, this Christ-following person is always depicted as either this person who is just kind of mean and judgmental, or is out to try to manipulate people, or is just this person who is so fearful and negative and against everything. Why? Why does this keep happening? And I've actually put some thought to it, and I think there's a lot of reasons. Starting with the fact that I think that script writers, they can be lazy just like everybody else. And they can, instead of doing the hard work of, developing full dimensional characters, just kind of phone it in and shorthand it with a stereotype. I think another reason is that the majority in our culture are Christians. And so if it comes to the part where you want to say something negative about religion or about religious people, and there's plenty to say that's negative about religion, well, you're going to use a Christian. But, I think we have to admit that maybe one of the reasons why it seems as though Christians are depicted as mean and miserable is because some of us are, right? Some of us are joyless and judgmental. And in part, I think it's because there are some churches that are expert at mass producing Christians who are uptight and mean and miserable. And that is so sad, because misery is the opposite of who Jesus is, and misery is the opposite of what Jesus gives his followers. And to demonstrate this, let's invite Jesus to just speak for himself in the Gospel of John, chapter 15 and 16, Jesus gives a lengthy teaching about his personal joy and the joy that he wants to give to those who follow him. It's long, these two chapters, and so we can't read the whole thing, but listen to these selections where Jesus says this: "If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you, and so that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Your grief will turn to joy. You will rejoice, and no one will take away your joy. Until now, you have not asked for anything in my name. Ask, and you will receive, and your joy will be complete. I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world, you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world." Don't miss what Jesus is saying here. Jesus says, I am joy. I am the author and definition of joy. No, complete joy. Jesus says, let my joy be in you so that your joy may be complete. Just think about this. Think about this idea of complete joy. Jesus says his joy is complete, where I think Jesus is implying that there are all sorts of counterfeits joy. There are all sorts of counterfeit joy that is partial, maybe gives a partial joy, a counterfeit joy that gives an incomplete joy, because this is joy that will eventually fade, will continually diminish over time, will eventually fail, will eventually disappoint, because it is a incomplete joy. But Jesus proclaims that he is complete joy. He is the lasting joy that your heart has been looking for your whole life. He brings a complete joy that will not fade. It will not diminish over time. It will never disappoint, because his joy is a joy that no one or nothing can ever take away. A relationship with Jesus is the way to complete joy. This is a timeless truth. It's a timeless truth that has shaped us as a church at Black Rock, and unfortunately, that actually sets Black Rock apart from most churches, I would have to say. Most churches seem to mass produce miserable Christians. By what? By exchanging this timeless truth that Jesus comes to bring us complete joy, exchanging this truth for two lies. Two lies that lead to Christian misery instead of Jesus' joy. And the first lie is legalism. Where legalism is what happens when a church, and when I talk about churches here, I'm talking about also individuals who take Jesus' way to joy and twist it into a lifestyle of rule following, motivated by guilt and a fear of punishment. Do you see how Jesus' words can be twisted into this lie? Jesus begins talking about joy by saying, if you keep my commands, you will remain in my love. Can you see how some churches, individual Christians, can end up twisting this into Jesus saying something that sounds like a threat, that Jesus is saying, you better follow my commands or I'm going to reject you. And what a lie. What a lie that is so easily exposed if people would just look at the context of what Jesus is saying. Jesus is talking about his commands in a context of love. And so they would see, if they saw the context, that this idea of legalism is the opposite of what Jesus is saying. But unfortunately, so many churches end up twisting everything in terms of a joy of following Jesus into the burden of following rules, making people feel guilty for the fact that their lives are not perfect, which does what? It leads people to this hypocrisy where they feel like they have to pretend. They have to pretend that their lives are perfect. Churches heaping so much guilt on people that it ends up that instead of Jesus following leading to joy, Jesus following seems to lead to this dead religion that just drains all the joy out of life, which is the opposite of what Jesus is saying. Because everything Jesus says about his commands is in the context of his love. Here's what Jesus is saying. Jesus is saying, just like I follow the commands of my Father out of the love relationship I have with my Father, I'm calling you to follow my commands out of your love relationship with me, which says a lot about these commands, right, of Jesus. He's saying that they come from his love, his dramatic, deep love for me. And so then I know that when Jesus calls me to a command, it's a guide to joy that he is giving me out of his love for me. When Jesus commands, do not judge, it's not a religious duty. It's a guide to joy. When Jesus says, this is my command, forgive others as I have forgiven you, this is not a rule that I have to follow. This is Jesus' guide to his joy. When Jesus says, this is my command, love other people like I have first loved you, this is not legalism. It's not a guilt burden. This is just what naturally happens when I have a love relationship with Jesus, and out of the overflow of the love that he pours into my life, I'm able to live and love others in a way that guides me to this freedom and joy in life. The joy of Jesus is not about rules. It's about a relationship. It's not about religion. It's about a love relationship with Jesus. And that's the first lie that ends up mass producing Christians that are just mean and miserable. It's legalism. But unfortunately, there's also a second lie. There's a second lie that leads people to this kind of misery. It's consumerism. Consumerism is the lie that claims that following Jesus really is all about me. It's all about me and using God to get what I want and fulfill my selfish desires. Do you see how the words that we read here can be twisted into this? I'm thinking about when Jesus says, ask and you will receive, and your joy will be complete. Some churches mass produce miserable people by twisting these words into a expectation that I'm going to have everything that I want, saying, see, if you follow Jesus, you'll get everything you want. It'll be prosperity and cars and houses. He'll make you rich. If you just follow Jesus, you'll never get sick. If you have enough faith, you'll receive victory over any difficulty in life. You'll have no trouble at all, which is obviously not what Jesus means when he says, ask and you will receive. What does Jesus mean when he says, ask and you will receive? He's coming back to the personal relationship. He's saying that there is always abundant joy. There's always joy to receive if you will just come to me personally, in a personal relationship, and just ask. So obviously, we know Jesus is not promising a trouble-free life of health and wealth, because Jesus explicitly says what? In this world, I guarantee you will have trouble. And so consumerism is this lie where we say that, Jesus' joy depends on receiving this material comfort, which is the opposite of what Jesus is saying. And that's why these consumer Christians end up being miserable. Because if you're a consumer Christian, you're saying, I can't be joyful unless I have everything that I want materially and be materially comforted. I can't be joyful until I have no sickness and no pain in my life. And you'll never be joyful. You'll never experience true joy. Jesus says that his joy is complete in itself and never dependent on material comfort or positive, perfect circumstances. Jesus says that when you are in a love relationship with me, you can have a complete joy, even when there is trouble all around you, even when the money is short, even when you're sick or alone or hurting inside. And this is the timeless truth that has changed BlackRock, one Black Rocker at a time. This is the timeless truth that even when it seems like my life is completely falling apart, I can turn to Jesus and find a joy that is complete.
It was an early Christmas morning. Our son Charlie was 8 months old, his first Christmas, when I discovered that my husband was having a relationship with another woman. I can still feel the devastation that I felt that morning as the tears started to stream down my face as I tried to process what was happening. Over the next several months, it was a roller coaster of emotions as I tried to do everything I possibly could to repair our marriage. We immediately went to counseling, but with his behavior continuing, ultimately settled on the path to divorce. Deep into our separation, I was having a really hard time. I had been seeing one of the Christian counselors here that we recommend at BlackRock, Julius, and during one of our sessions, I told him that I was really struggling with my thoughts, and looking to him for his miraculous insight and very wise teaching, he said to me, press into your relationship with God, find him. I said, if that's the best you've got, Julius, I think we're both in trouble. All night long, the thoughts would torture me. I was a bad wife. I'm a bad mom. I wasn't pretty enough. I am a failure. I've ruined Charlie's life. Round after round, I would fight with my ex-husband in my head, all of which resulted in the darkness. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad, even depressed. It's okay to grieve. I was grieving the death of a marriage, the death of my family, the death of my future the way I thought it would be. But not when it's just bombarding you at every turn. Going through this situation, it really made me question my identity. Who was I if I wasn't a wife anymore? Who was I if I wasn't just a mom, but now I'm a single mom? You know, you want this picture-perfect family, and that was something that I used to have, at least on the outside, but now I didn't even have that anymore. And I didn't know if I was ever gonna have that again. So when I decided to press into my relationship with God, I decided to bombard myself with him. Constant worship, constant praise, constant prayer. I started memorizing scripture again, as I used to when I was a child. And you know what God did when I leaned in? He leaned in too. And the familiarity of his presence was something I began to crave every single second of every day. I couldn't wait till I got back to worship, back to prayer, back into the word because of his presence. And suddenly I knew what Julius meant, why finding him was the solution to all my problems. Because in his presence there is no anger. There's no space for hatred, bitterness, or betrayal. His presence is the healing power that washes everything clean again. This is summed up in Psalm 16, verse 11. In God's presence is fullness of joy. I mean, sometimes my life is crazy. I can't believe all the chaos and the ups and downs that I've had in the past 3 years. But I think the joy of his presence is something that stabilizes me, and it's something that I can lean on because I'm anchored to him and I'm not anchored to my circumstances. I look back at that time now as such a sweet, sweet time between me and the Lord, and my relationship with him will never be the same. And as much as I am just amazed at how God and I have connected in a new way, I could have never even imagined that God would redeem and transform my story as much as he has today. After I worked with God to heal my heart, he brought Ron into my life, and we got married this past November. It is so amazing just to see what a strong man of God he is, and his relationship with Charlie is so special that I can't even thank God enough for everything that he's done to just completely change my story into something I could have never even imagined it to be. The other day, Ron and I were praying together, and I heard Ron pray these words. God, please bring Charlie's dad to know you, that he would know the love of Christ and be saved. And that's the cry of my heart too. And if you're in a place right now where your story is in the tough times, and you can't imagine the light on the other side. There was a time where I couldn't see it either, and I pressed into God, and I made that choice. So please, make that choice to press into God and who he is right now, because you will never regret it. The joy of his presence will fill you and will give you the strength that you need to get to the other side.
Yeah, let's thank Sarah for that. You know, and Sarah ends her story with a personal message, a call to you if you're in that place, you're desperate for joy. You're desperate and you're at a decision point. Make the decision to press into your relationship with Jesus. And if this is your decision point, then start that decision with the choice to, right after our worship time, come up front to our men and women of the prayer team and just spend a few moments with them just after the closing song. So I'm first going to say some more words, then we're going to respond together to Jesus in a song. But then as we close, come up front to the prayer team. If you're watching online, just stay tuned because you'll have some information at the end about how to reach out for some resourcing. But now, let me just highlight some of the key takeaways from Sarah's story. The first being that Jesus' joy comes through a relationship with him. I just loved how honest Sarah was that when her counselor says the answer is not some quick fix, it's going to be a relationship with Jesus. And it's true that seems at first just too easy or too hard, but it is the answer. Sarah quotes the testimony of the psalmist who says, "You make known to me the path of life. Your presence, in your presence, there is fullness of joy." So there is complete joy, the complete joy that you're looking for, and it's found in a relationship with Jesus. This is where you're going to find your true identity as a child of God. It's not in legalism, it's not in following rules or trying to earn God's love or God's approval. No, this joy is found in receiving the approving, forgiving, total love of Jesus in his presence, in a relationship with him. Next, Jesus' joy is not a feeling or a quick fix. See, those are the two biggest misconceptions when it comes to the joy of Jesus. That Jesus' joy comes like this instant happy pill, and two, that Jesus' joy is all about happy feelings. But complete joy of Jesus is not a quick fix, and it's not about feelings. Now, complete joy in Jesus will bring positive feelings, certainly, but the joy of Jesus is not built on feelings. It is built on facts. Here's the fact that when you put your faith in Jesus and what he did on the cross for you, the fact is you are completely loved. You cannot be loved more by God or less by God. You are completely loved. The fact is you are completely secure because you belong to Jesus, and therefore no evil has authority over you, and no hardship or pain can come into your life except which is part of God's loving plan for you. The fact is you are completely empowered. As you follow Jesus, he fills you with his Holy Spirit, giving you empowerment to live more and more like Jesus and in his joy. And the fact is, you're completely blessed as a child of God. You have his good name, his wise counsel and guidance, and you have his miraculous presence, which gives you confidence, all the confidence you need for this life and the next. That's the fact for our joy, not my feelings. Next, Jesus' joy comes in the midst of our mess. One of the great things about BlackRock is that we firmly believe that in this world, nobody's perfect, and that Jesus meets us in the midst of our mess. Do you feel like your life is a mess? Join the club, because all of us here at BlackRock freely confess, I am broken and I am desperate for Jesus. And that's why at BlackRock, it's okay to not be okay. It is okay to have your life a mess. You don't need to pretend. You don't need to pretend, because we believe that Jesus meets us in our mess. And one thing that Sarah expressed to me about her story is that she didn't want anybody to think that the reason that she has joy is because of her remarriage. No. Her story is that Jesus met her in her mess and gave her joy while still in her mess. And to this day, Jesus still brings her joy in the messiness of her life, even after the wonderful blessing of Ron. Life is messy. But the good news is that Jesus brings his complete joy even in a life that I have made a complete mess, or that is completely mess dumped upon me. Either way, he brings complete joy for my complete mess. Final thought. Jesus' joy comes as we follow his way. Remember, Jesus tells us that his commands are the way to his joy. Jesus commands me to love him and love others. Jesus commands me against bitterness or negativity. Jesus commands that I receive his forgiveness and then give that forgiveness to others. These commands are not legalistic rules that I must follow. No, these are the ways that Jesus brings joy into my life. As I follow his word, he leads me into his way that leads to joy. The complete joy that I'm looking for is therefore not consumerism. Joy is not found in demanding that Jesus give me joy like Jesus was some vending machine. No, complete joy is all about a relationship with Jesus every day, where I spend time in his word, where I worship with his people, and I grow more and more to learn his way and follow his way and not my selfish desires. That's following Jesus to complete joy. And this is the timeless truth that BlackRock has been proclaiming for 175 years. And we will continue to hold out this complete joy through Jesus to joy-starved people like me and like you until Jesus comes back.
Thanks for tuning into our sermon here at BlackRock. I'm so glad you found us, and I hope and pray this message helped you get more connected to Jesus. Speaking of connection, if you're interested in taking your next steps towards getting connected at BlackRock, use the quick links in the description below. There you'll find links for information if you're new, for upcoming events, online giving, and more. I also want to encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow our podcast so you can stay up to date with every single thing we post. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week, either online or in person.